The American education system is broken. Here in America, our schooling looks kind of like a bank. So, you go into the bank with your money and you want to deposit your money. Well, that idea of depositing is what's happening in our school systems in America. We are depositing the information into the students' brains. And what that's causing is a lack of motivation in our students. They're not asking questions, tough questions. They're being told that it's not okay to ask questions. And the people who are running this system are white, rich, hearing men. And their goal is to control and to profit. So when the education system was set up, there were three goals in mind. The first was that the rich and the poor were to come together. The second was to quiet everyone, to keep their questions at bay. And the third was to teach them to spend money. And how did the school system convince people to spend money? Well, it starts back in the 1800s with the Industrial Revolution. At that time, the economy was changing, and it was concerned with mass production. And with this mass production, you need to have mass consumers. You need people to buy the product that's being made. And at that time, like before the Industrial Revolution, people were farmers. They were making their own clothes, growing their own food. They were self-sufficient. But once they entered school, they were taught that they needed to buy things that they didn't necessarily need. And this all came down to marketing and to teach people not to think for themselves, just to do what they're told. Now, the whole educational system at the time was supported by two organizations, the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Institute. And these two foundations came together and they changed the educational system. And they made it mandatory for every child to go to school. Because before that, it wasn't mandatory. People could go whenever they wanted. So with that, they were creating power for the elite, for people who had money. It started to separate the rich and the poor. And this created a benefit. They were able to profit. The Carnegie and Rockefeller foundations were able to profit from this change because it was about brainwashing the people into doing what they wanted, which was to buy things. And when people started acting different in the classroom, the system started to experiment to create drugs for people, especially drugs like Ritalin, to keep people at bay, to keep them calm and to not ask questions and to do what they're told. Also around this time, there was the idea of eugenics. And what eugenics is the idea that power and wealth can be passed down through generations. And genes can define where someone is within the economy. And so one man, Alexander Graham Bell, he was a big supporter of eugenics in concerning hearing and deaf people. Alexander Graham Bell thought that deafness was passed through the genes, and so he thought it better to keep deaf people away from each other, and he ended up marrying a deaf person. And so what this eugenics idea did was give power back to the hearing people to the hearing rich people. And the whole point of this idea was to keep the power in certain people's hands. And that's what our educational system has done, is to put power into the rich, white, hearing people's hands.